getting passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on. So Nurov in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. Doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haig deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the round pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped him all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is... Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's just like trouble. He's left on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's a lot have fun. Yeah. It's all about the entertainment, so I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is enjoying himself watching. And the Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
Does he have it? Medeiros is going to get it. Medeiros is going to toss it. They haven't got it.
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start chopper. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it. Big Barry.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Almost Pro Championship. Tonight we head to the home of British motorsport, and that, of course, is this fantastic circuit right here. Of course, the circuit Silverstone. It's the home of the first ever Formula One Grand Prix, and it's the home of round number 6 of this brilliant championship. Of course, my name is Zach Sweeney. You're watching along live wherever you are around the world, albeit that on the JPBroadcasting YouTube channel. Hopefully, eventually, you'll be watching along on the APC Twitch channel as well. But this evening, we have got in store some awesome bits of fun. I do hope that you are able to hear me, because that would definitely be ideal. Apologies in advance. I'm a commentator. That's it. I get to do all the easy work when it comes to broadcast and fun things like that. I most certainly do not touch anything to do with the presenting side, with the broadcasting side, with the producing side, anything like that. I purely look at cars and I go, wow, that's a fast car. That's all I do. So we're going to learn together over the course of the season. Hopefully, I can learn a thing or two. We'll make mistakes together. I'm saying together just to make me feel a little bit better about myself, essentially, is what we're going with. Again, hopefully you can hear me. Again, if you can't, let me know ASAP in the YouTube chat. I don't think you can, purely because my mic isn't coming up anywhere on the... Hang on. That's... Test 1, 2? No? Maybe? I think? Guys? Oh, got this one there. That's perfect. Evening, we have got... Okay, I think you can hear me. I might have just stressed myself out. I think we're okay. Ah, no, of course. No, it's fine. I was looking at the wrong mixer. See, this is exactly what I mean, guys. Essentially, I'm an idiot. Just ignore me. Nice to meet you all. Great first impression. Let's start again, shall we? My name is Zach Sweeney. This is the Almost Pro Championship, and I'm a commentator, not a producer, as I'm sure you will very, very quickly find out. Of course, we're going to touch on a lot of things over the duration of today. As I say, coming into this round number 6 of this brilliant championship, we've got 7 cars on the grid, but who needs quantity when you've got quality? When it comes to the championship, and you will have to apologise as I switch between tabs, the game will pause because, you know, why would it stay continuous? Coming into today, Lewis Smith is the driver that's leading the championship. That, of course, is the man at the moment on provisional pole position. Speedy 10, as he's most betterly known. He's on 98 points. Ethan Shackleton, who unfortunately won't be joining us, is there in P2, ahead of Drew Bliss. Carl Stewart Woodward, just 6 points back on 62. Then comes Jordi Lansing, the Flying Dutchman, of course, as part of the Red Bull contingent, looking for a little bit more this season after previous woes. Then comes Adam Watson in the McLaren, ties just in behind in P7 as well. Oliver Milner, Connor Stewart Woodward, of course, the brother duo that is the Aston Martin and the McLaren drivers. And then, of course, Harley Burnell rounds off the top 10 with 10 points to his name. Again, I just want to sort of say I'm sorry. Please don't shout at me too soon. Again, just let me know any audio issues, balancing, things like that. Because, as I say, commentary, I'd like to think I can do fairly well. When it comes to making sure everything's a nice balance, when it comes to audio levels, how loud the cars are, all that malarkey, just take me with you, okay? Let's learn. Let me grow and learn with you. fingers crossed that can be the case. And I am a little bit annoyed as to why the game keeps pausing every time that I click over anything on my PC, but it's fine. We'll deal with that at a later date. I more just want to make sure that everything is all good. Currently, we are in qualifying. So the drivers out there on their laps looking to impress, looking to set their quickest time possible. And what I was touching on a little bit earlier on, actually, when it came to lap times, quality versus quantity, we haven't got quantity. We've got a number of drivers missing today. What we have got are 3 drivers, of course, of Lewis Smith in the Mercedes. Of course, then you've got Senki, which of course is Andrea Kenkovan in the Ferrari. Then, of course, Jordi in the Red Bull. They're separated by just over a tenth and a half coming into this qualifying session. Granted, we can't read too much into it as of yet, purely because, you know, there's still 10.5 minutes left of the session, which means there are still plenty of times for lap times to come down. Silverstone in of itself, a very technical circuit, one that it very much is a driver circuit, and one that not only can the driver make a lot of difference, but the setup as well, the fine-tuning of the car. Of course, on F123, Codemasters and EA added a huge overhaul sort of to the setup system, I suppose you could sort of say. Not necessarily to the extent of, say, iRacing or ACC or anything like that in the wider world of sim racing, but it gave a lot of a bigger range. Previously, you could only use maybe 1 to 10 wings. Obviously, 1 being super low downforce, 10 being, you know, you're very, very draggy and you've got a lot of downforce on the car. Now I believe it's between 1 and 100. So the scope and the range and the fine-tuning is a lot broader, and you can really sort of get it just to your likeness. And especially at a circuit like Silverstone, balance is key. Granted, there are a lot of high-speed sections. Maggots, Beckett's, Chapel, that's obviously a big one. Abbey, Farm and Village, obviously that complex through turn 1s, 2 and 3 to start the lap. Very high speed, demands a lot of downforce. But then you've got straights. You've got the Wellington straight, you've got the Hangar straight, which is this one, of course, that we see Ken Kavana on the moment. He, of course, is now on an outlap, preparing to start a lap. There is a balance to Silverstone, and as I say, very technical. In these Formula 1 cars, one of the most satisfying laps to put in. Obviously, high downforce, Silverstone flows really nicely. Be interesting to see how it translates into a race, but I'm sure, of course, Andrea Kenkavakan is going to take us for a lap. Into Abbey, of course, you want to maximise the track on the left-hand side, swing it through 8th gear completely flat through turns 1, then 2. Into 3, you're looking just after the 100 board. Actually, unfortunately, going in a bit too deep was the Ferrari, but you're aiming for 4th gear, roll the car through on the brakes, not actually trying to slow the car down too much at all. Then into Aintree, DRS open for the first time this lap, of course, removed from the Sir Hamilton straight, I think back in 2020. And then into Brooklands at the end, again, looking just after the 50 board, really chucking the car in deep. 5th gear, nearly 4th for the rotation. Interestingly, through Luffield, you can take a multitude of different lines. Of course, Ken Kavan is looking to V off the corner. Early apex, run out wide, late apex, straight exit to maximise this run through the old pit straight. Towards Cops Corner, again, a very, very fast corner. Look at that telemetry, not a lift. Drops the revs a little bit, but still able to maintain a good enough pull towards Maggots and Beckett's. Open up the track on the right, through the right-hander, of course, of Maggots. Still in 8th gear until we get to the final part here at Chapel, where he finally decides to go down to 6th. Not the best of laps, but still up on his previous time at 23 thousandths of a second for the Ferrari. Into Stowe, again, another ridiculously quick corner to sort of relative for its radius. 6th gear, a little bit messy, too much rotation on the curb, bogged the car down a little bit. Into Vale, down to 3rd, looking for the start of that curve for the braking zone. Then it's all about building trust, building throttle response on the exit, then to complete the lap, and that's provisional pole by about 10th and a half from Ken Kavakan for a 26.363. Will that be the pole time? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. There's still 7 minutes left. I know, of course, Lewis Smith is out there on a lap as well in the Mercedes. Let's see what he's able to do, of course, in that very striking black W14. A little bit slower to the first sector, 28 thousandths of a second, but still plenty of opportunity to make up that time back once again. I'm just staring at, sorry, I apologise for that brief bit of silence. I'm just staring at the names, and as a commentator, particularly an English one of my biggest issues has always been pronunciations, because I don't want to offend anyone, but also there are some names that I look at that are very, very scary. Obviously, I've kind of gotten a bit used to them. You know, where to put the accents and the ch's and the z's and different sounds at which positions of your throat. But I'm not perfect. So obviously, any driver, like I say, we're going to learn, we're going to grow, we're going to develop as this season progresses. This is my first time knowing you. This is your first time knowing me. Maybe, I don't know if you've seen me anywhere else in sim racing. Hi. Not well. That sounds as if you should know. You shouldn't. I'm irrelevant. But anyway, the pronunciation side of things. Basically, if I completely mess it up and I offend you, I'm sorry. Let me know. Dumb it down. Basically, explain your name like to a 5-year-old. So obviously, in the case of say Ethan Shackleton, he's gonna message me because I can't pronounce Shackleton. He's gonna go Shackleton. And just break it down like that. Obviously, I can see the likes of Jordi Lansing, of course, the Flying Dutchman, his teammate and obviously real-life friend as well of Ty's at Mosbergen. I hope I've gotten that right. Then you've also got the big one that I'm still struggling with at the moment is Andrea. I think, is it Chenko Vacan or Kenko Vacan? I don't know if you pronounce that last C. Chenko Vacan, maybe. Again, we're just going to roll with it. But of course, he's not been here for very long. Only been a part of the championship since race 6 of season 6, and well, that's today basically. He has joined in and is looking to take, of course, to the fight, and at the moment on provisional pole position. Can see a couple of people in the YouTube chat, so hello to everyone. I can see Ty's Mosberg and Carl Stewart Woodard there as well, and oh my goodness me, I need to find a way to lock my game so that I can move about my screen freely. If anyone has any ideas on how to do that, I'd be greatly appreciative, because I suck, basically, when it comes to that. I can scroll, and that's great, but I need to look at my information, especially on a championship that I don't know. I need to see things. I need to see my prep. I need to see my research. I need to see all the beautiful spreadsheets that the amazing people here at APC have provided for me, so I can at least pretend like I know what I'm talking about. Because insight, for those that maybe want to be a commentator or want to know what it's like to be a commentator, we don't know what we're talking about. We sit here, we get paid, and we kind of know. We know that's a car. We know it has 4 wheels. We know it has a steering wheel. We know it goes fast, and the aim of the car is to go as quickly as possible. But when it comes to all the technical jargon and things like that, not a Scooby. And basically all we're doing is reciting what drivers tell us, what we hear, what we sort of know from our own sim racing experiences, and try and kind of make it coherent to maybe have a chance of, I don't know, sounding like we do know what we're talking about. Anyway, back to the relevant stuff. 3 minutes left here at Silverstone for qualifying. Of course, Chenkovan at the moment taking to the top step for Ferrari, but one more lap left to go. And I definitely know there is a lot more time on the table. Riding on board with Andrea for that previous lap, you could tell, granted it was a pole time, definitely a lot quicker than anything I could do. But looking at the lap, looking at the driving style, looking at how the car was sort of dancing its way through, and how at some points it bogged down, there was not enough rotation, apexes missed, lockups into corners. It was a good lap, but there is more on the table, more to go and get, more to go and find. And I think that is what the likes of Lewis Smith, Jordi Lansing, Thijs Mosbergen are all going to be able to go and do potentially out there as well. The Red Bull contingent in 3 and 4, of course, they're about half a second, just under half a second off in the form of Mosbergen. He's there in P4. Behind that is Bayern Vortex. That's then behind that the 2 McLarens. Of course, that's Connor Stewart Woodward, of course, at the moment not actually on the... Hang on. I think Stewart Woodward is... hang hang on a minute. I've been lied to, ladies and gentlemen. It's fine. I'm sure there's a reason for it. Basically, when it comes to consoles and things, people don't like putting their real names as their gamer tag. So we have to have like a translation sheet as such, as to not call people like, say, Krypton World, which, don't get me wrong, sounds amazing. But to shout Krypton World goes down the inside when he goes for an amazing move doesn't quite do him justice. So we'd like to obviously give him the privilege of having his own name said as such. So I was trying to translate them all. This, how, goodness me, off the road on an outlap just coming out of Stowe has come, unfortunately, Lansing. He's gone in to start his final lap of the session, won't be able to do that. So P3 is the best he's going to be able to manage. Of course, home... home best friends, of course, between Jordi and Tyes. Both of them have been, they've brought themselves up in the real world. They, of course, at the Red Bull together as a teammate, constituency, and now, of course, Tyes Mosbergen has got an opportunity to go and tip his friend for P3 on the second row. We've got Jordi, not going to be going overly competitive. We've got Lewis Smith on a decent lap time, just over a 1/10 of a second quicker through the first sector alone. That is enough to see him take over Chenkovan, who himself is into the pit lane. So all eyes are on this man right here. Checker flag is out, and of course, for those familiar with the Formula 1 world will know that means you are able to finish your lap time. The session doesn't end until you cross the checkered flag. Huge snap of oversteer, though, unfortunately, from Smith, and it continues going on to the hangar straight. That's going to bring an end to his qualifying session and effectively solidify the pole position set by Chenkovan at the front of the field. The Ferrari will take pole position here in Silverstone unless there's anything Bahan can do. Through Copse Corner, slight improvement, however, needs near a second to take pole position. At best, I think he's maybe looking at going up onto the second row, if that. We will find out, of course, by the time he crosses the checkered flag. Across the Sector 2 line, 8/10 up, it could well be promising. If he finds a little bit more time in this final sector, he could at the very least tip the two Red Bulls to P3, and that's going to give him great stead going into the Grand Prix here today. 0 seconds on the clock. This is the final lap. Everyone else has completed it, well, apart from Krypton World, who just crosses the line to put himself up onto the third row. Bahan Vortex across the line, and it is a front row start. Just over a 1/10 of a second of pole position. He tips Smith to P2. Beautiful stuff, it must be said, from the Aston Martin. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is qualifying brought to a close. I'll run you through the grid order in just a second. And there you can see it is the Croatian of Chenkovan that takes pole position here in Silverstone for round 6 of the APC British Grand Prix. Bahan Vortex, you can see the Barbados man joins him on the front row. Then comes Lewis Smith, the championship leader in P3 after a late blunder in qualifying. He is alongside the Flying Dutchman of Jordi, of course, Lansing on row 2. Then comes Tyes Mosbergen to round off the top 5. Krypton World and Rustaclau round off 6 and 7. The McLaren on home soil, looking to run their way forward and maybe bag some decent points in this race. 26 laps ahead of the British Grand Prix, plus, of course, formation lap and things. They get a 2-minute cooldown just so they can adjust their setups under Parc Ferme, of course. Only slight tweaks, I believe, to the front wing. Minor suspension changes. I think they can do their anti-roll bar thickness. Wow. Stiffness. And those are ratings for anti-roll bars, by the way. So, of course, yeah, the stiffness, obviously how much the car gives effectively with lateral load. Here at Silverstone, you want it to be as stiff as possible to keep the car nice and sharp. The more roll you have, the more lean you're going to have, and it's just going to make the car a little bit more sluggish. At other circuits, you do kind of want a little bit more of a fluid car just to have that rotation. But here at Silverstone, I believe it is best to have a nice, stiff, rigid setup, just to, again, have that car nice and pointy on throughout all, obviously, both axles, the front and the rear. Or actually no, 4 axles, because it's pushrod suspension. So I think they have got 4 separate drive shafts. Well, most cars do anyway. But basically 4 separate axles, I think, because they have the sort of the equivalent of the track rod ends and shocks as such on each of the 4 wheels. So I'm assuming they have 4 separate drive shafts. So 4 separate axles. But we'll go front and rear just because simplicity. And that's what I mean. Pretending like I know what I'm talking about. I had no idea what any of that meant. But confidence, I suppose. Fake it till you make it. Something like that. But yeah, basically, setups and things can be tweaked. Strategies can be tweaked. Speaking of strategy, the last time I was decent on an F1 game was back in sort of F1 2019, F1 2020. So a while ago. And the strategy at Silverstone was always softs to mediums. Or the equivalent of. I know they changed it in I believe it was 2019 to the soft, medium, hard that we have, but with C1 to C5 compounds as opposed to sort of hyper soft, ultra soft, super soft, soft, medium, hard, super hard, but they didn't really get used. So nowadays we just have 3 compounds soft, which are fast but not very much longevity, the hards which are not very quick, harder rubber but have got that longevity, and then the mediums, naturally a median between the two, so have got a little bit of pace, a little bit of longevity. Of course that ranges from track to track on track demands, track temperature, things like that, based on what compound of tyre Pirelli brings. So that can be C1, C2 and C3, which is the softest range. It can be C4, C5, C6, C3, C4 and C5, which are then the harder range. Here at Silverstone, I believe they are going for the C3, 4, 5. So in essence, they are using the harder of the Pirelli range, and therefore the soft is actually still a fairly durable compound and can go, I believe, 10-ish laps into the race if you nurse them well. Again, I don't know, but I would predict either softs to mediums, mediums to softs. Worst case scenario, probably softs to hards, maybe. All depends obviously on safety cars and things like that as to what we see. But again, I don't know. Speaking of, there we go. There's my question answered. It might well be softs to hards. We've got 6 of the 7 drivers on the soft, on the hard compound tyre. One of them, Thijs Moosbergen, on the softs. So looking for a very punchy start. Look out for him over the course of the first couple of laps. He'll have to come in a lot earlier, granted. But he will have a very quick start, hopefully be able to get some track position for his sake, so then he can sort of push forward and maybe have a decent showing of things. Who knows? Again, strategy all up in the air. We don't really know until they've crossed the checkered flag. We probably won't know who's on the best strategy until we get to around about lap, maybe lap 20, lap 23, 26 even, fun lap, and then we might know who is taking to the best strategy. At the moment, though, on the formation lap, on the warm-up lap, on the parade lap, whatever you want to call it, the drivers get 1 lap just to acclimatise themselves back into the car, warm up those tyres, warm up those brakes, get themselves into that operating temperature window. That's the car itself. So obviously the hards, very hard rubber, very thick rubber, very dense, so it's going to take a while for the heat to actually, because surface temp is easy to warm up. You can spin them, boom. The whole tyre is warmed up, the whole surface of the tyre. The issue rises when it comes to the internal carcass temperature, the nitty-gritties of the tyre. When that warms up and when that expands, when that is able to tolerate lateral load, that's when you've got an operable window of grip. And that's what these drivers are going to try to, at least an extent, do when it comes to their tyre warm. Same too with brakes. Again, you don't want them too cold as as it'll take too long to get into that operable window. You also don't want them too hot as to cause brake fade, because the whole point of the brakes is to convert the kinetic energy of the car moving, kinetic moving energy into heat through friction. And when you've got too much heat, it sort of causes this thing called brake fade. Brakes don't work as well, they get a bit spongy, things start to not work as well as they're meant to, essentially. But we'll get to all of that in just a second. Hopefully these guys have all done the best of jobs as possible. We go to 5 red lights ahead of round 6 of the APC Championship. 26 laps ahead of us, and we're underway and racing. Good launch from the front row, I should say, from that Aston Martin, already catapulting himself into the race lead. Great start then from Bahan ahead, of course, of Andrea Chenkovan into Village, of course, on the Ferrari going to be looking to the inside. Of course, there's Lewis Smith going to go around the outside. Beautifully done from the Mercedes. So a poor start from our pole sitter, who tried his best, put in a sensational lap in qualifying, but is already down to 4th place potentially, as here comes Lansing, I should say, pulling himself alongside, going down the Wellington Straight in towards Brooklands. And there is his, of course, his real-life friend trying to get into the mix. Around the outside goes the Ferrari, trying his best to hang on to every bit of track position possible into Luffield, and it's the inside line for the number 95 machine, of course, that Ferrari of Chenkovan. Huge bits of contact between the two Red Bulls, as well as Thijs Mosbergen tries to pick his way past. They tumble their way back down between the two McLarens. So Mosbergen sandwiched between the two McLarens. McLaren bred, Red Bull meat, of course, in this very peculiar sandwich. Not entirely sure as to how tasty all that carbon fibre would be, but Bahan Vortex leads the way. Lap number 1 done, well, effectively here at Silverstone, and he is able to command the race. Chenkovan, of course, trying to launch a counter-attack on the Mercedes. Of course, Lewis Smith did his best as to overtake in the opening phases, but now they're settled in. Now Chenkovan can warm up those tyres. He might well be able to go for a counter-attack in the near future. Very, very late on the brakes, trying to close that gap, and you get all the weird and wonderful camera angles that we love to see in sim racing. Fastest lap, of course, by Bahan Vortex. He leads them over lap 1 into lap number 2. And running very strong. Look at the gap opening up. Couple of car lengths at the very least. The magic number is 1 second. In a lap's time, when DRS is enabled, that's what Bahan Vortex is hoping to not be a part of. He wants to be as far away from the rest of the pack as possible so he can run, do his own thing, and enjoy his race in peace. I'm sure Lewis Smith is not going to be having any of that and is going to be trying to hammer on the pressure as to extend his championship lead at the front. Already a fairly sizable one, I think, coming into this on 98 points. Unfortunately for him, he's got Chenkovan, the debutant for this race. Maybe a little bit of nerves or unease or anything like that on the grid. On pole position, a lot of pressure on his shoulders. So he might have been coming into this a little bit shaky, a little bit nervous, dropped back to a couple of positions because of it. But a poor start doesn't define your race. It's how you do for the next 25 laps beyond that, and at the moment he's recomposed himself. It's so easy to lose and lose sight and get angry and get rageful and get desperate, but I don't think that's going to be the case. He's going to put himself to the right hand side going into Stowe Corner. Let's see what the Ferrari can do, whether it's going to catapult himself back in a second place or not. The Mercedes tries to give it a good go to the outside of Stowe Corner. That doesn't quite work out for him. He's not going to battle going into Vale. Nicely done and well thought out by the championship leader. He has got a lot more at stake in this race. Bahan Vortex, Chenkovan sets the fast lap, then goes Thijs Mosbergen, of course, on those soft compound tyres. You would expect more progress made at this stage. Let's see if he's able to launch an attack on his Red Bull teammate. Inside line into turn 3, and I don't think Lansing is going to fight that one overly hard. He doesn't. The 99 machine up into 4th. And looking to, of course, accelerate himself towards the top 3 as well. Again, let me know about volumes and things like that. Whatever, those watching out in chat, I have got the chat open, so I will see and respond to any thoughts, feelings, queries, questions, whatever you might have out there in the chat today. So just let me know. Give me a shout, and I promise I won't bite. I've been told not to, especially for you guys, just to make a good first impression or something, because I'm great at those, as you can tell by the start of this broadcast. Chenkovan into second, looking to recover. Still, DRS is enabled, but what he has done is already burned through a lot of that energy recovery system, the ERS, the battery deployment. Of course, our extra 160 brake horsepower to those rear wheels to propel him down this hanger straight towards Stowe Corner. Couple that with some slipstream, and that gap is going to exponentially close. Not enough to see him go for a move into Stowe, but definitely enough to see him put some pressure onto the Aston Martin. Now he's at a dilemma. Does he go for the track position? Does he go for the lead? Or does he sit here in DRS? Save the ERS, because that's a difficult thing to do at Silverstone. There aren't many heavy braking zones. The MGUH, of course, the motor generator unit harvesting, the harvester of that energy, uses the brakes, the similar fashion of the kinetic energy slowing the car down to recharge the battery, and that is a sensational move into the loop from Thijs Mosbergen. Textbook stuff. He pushes his way past the Mercedes up into the podium places, making the most of his ERS, making the most of his soft compound tyres, and making the most of that golden opportunity that we're all too tempted of so many times into the loop, and he picks his way past nicely onto the podium. But yes, when it comes to recharging the battery, you need heavy braking zones. You need a heavy deceleration as to get a lot of kinetic energy recharging those batteries, spinning those motors to get charged back into the batteries. And here at Silverstone, you can't do that unless you're sat behind another car and you can extend those braking zones just a little bit. Huge bit of contact going into Maggots and Beckett as well. Lewis Smith gets tapped by Jordi Lansing. Not entirely sure as to what happened there. I believe, judging on the tail end of what we saw, Jordi was going to the inside of Maggots, and maybe Lewis Smith didn't like that too much. I'm not sure. I can't comment because obviously I don't know. If there is issues, then it will be seen by the stewards, and they'll get reported and they'll get slapped on the wrist, they'll get a penalty, whatever. I don't get paid enough to deal with the stewards' inquiries because it's the worst job in sim racing. So respect to all the wonderful stewards out there because no one's ever happy. If the race gets a bit quieter, we'll touch on how being a steward is the worst possible job you could ever have in sim racing. Big Constantina effect as the Aston Martin parks the bus as Thijs Mosbergen is constantly searching for the gap and immediately countering on the Ferrari. Nicely done. The gap opens up through entry and he is going to power his way through using what little battery he's got left. Inside line going into Brooklands. The Ferrari's got the pull later on the brakes as well, but the fresh grip of those softs might be enough. No, they're not. To find their way past the Ferrari. He's going to have to tuck in behind is the Flying Dutchman. He needs to make better use of these softs. He needs to be in front, charging away. Under pressure from his teammate going into Copse is not the way to go about things. Jordi should not be backing out into Copse to save his teammate the track position. Thijs Mosbergen should be assisting Jordi Lansing. Goodness me, I'm combining them. I'm sorry. Jordi Lansing to carve them through the field. That's his job, but that's not happening. Change for the lead potentially. The Aston Martin goes defensive going into Stowe corner. That's going to invite Chenkovan to go to the outside. A swap between the two Red Bulls as well as Thijs Mosbergen is left stranded. He's going to be fighting with Lansing, who battles his way past around the outside of Stowe corner. Beautifully done. So a change for the lead, a change for the podium, and Chenkovan is back into the race lead. Let's see what his true pace is like. Let's see how far ahead he can get. Still 20 laps of racing left to go here at Silverstone. And still plenty of overtakes to be had. What was that I said about something quality over quantity? Because these guys are bringing it. They've got 7 cars, but over half the field is locked in a nose-to-tail train here at Silverstone, and that is exactly what we want. Chenkovan living proof that a start does not define your whole race, and this a battle for P2. Jordi Lansing looking to the inside of Brooklands, gets it stopped as well. Change for P2 and beautifully done up into second place. Thijs Mosbergen as well looking to do the same, but to the outside of Luffield this time. Unfortunately not got the agility to maintain the minimum speed around the outside. He might well be able to look going into Copse corner, but he's not stupid, so he's not going to do that. Decides this time to back out. Maggots Beckett, then the final corner here, this left-hand kink at Chapel. Thijs Mosbergen on the back end of the Aston Martin, of course, of Barham, who is going to go defensive into Stowe, so is keen to hang on to that podium place, but on the softs, whether they are wearing out already, I don't know. Can't see exactly what the tyre percentage wear is, but probably at the very least 30s, I would imagine. But you would still think soft enough to carry him enough momentum to get after the pack ahead. You would think. Through Abbey, then Village or Farm, then into Village. Turns 1, 2, and 3 here at Silverstone. Then you work your way in, of course, the Village, then the Loop, of course, because you loop yourself back round. All about getting a late apex, but also managing that minimum speed, getting that drive off the corner. and chopping as much of the distance as possible. Very fine balancing act, while also still trying to find a decent apex and not leave yourself susceptible to a move on the inside. Again, Brooklyn's this fast left-hander, tight on the apex, it pinches, then you've got to open up Luffield as much as you can. Again, first apex, run it wide, nip it in, get that second apex. These Formula 1 cars have got enough rotation mid-corner that they can do that. Other cars maybe not, and they do just have to take a more geometric racing line as to sort of maintain the grip of the car all the way through. They don't have enough of a turning circle to get that sharp second bite. Other cars have to take a V because they don't have enough power to accelerate out of a corner like Formula 1 cars do. So there are so many different lines that you can take through Luffield, and racing in general, really. That geometric racing line is never usually the perfect one to go for. Double move into Stowe. We've got Bayern Vortex versus Yuri Lansing, and then Thijs Mosbergen being overtaken by championship leader, of course, of Lewis Smith into Vale. Bayern Vortex unable to launch a counter-attack on the Red Bull, who of course was a winless driver up until last season and is now battling his way through into maybe podium contention, championship contention. He is aiming for a race win this season. He's aiming for multiple race wins this season, and most notably, of course, understandably so, in a Red Bull as a Dutchman at the Dutch Grand Prix. That goes without saying. In front, of course, of the virtual Orange Army. Lap 8 of 26, just under a third of the way through, and these laps do go thick and fast. These Formula 1 cars aren't slow. We have got Thijs Mosbergen, of course, at the rear end of this train. And then also we've got the two McLaren teammates of Kryptonwild and, of course, Rastaklau. They're 6th and 7th. They've been keeping each other company for the best part of the race itself. Be interesting to see when pit stops make a play, though. Of course, Thijs Mosbergen hasn't been able to make proper use of those softs and might well be coming in the near future to get off them. He's not done a bad stint, but better circumstances, maybe a more punchy start, and it could have been a much better stint in general. 6th gear, of course, through Stowe. Bit of a twitch from Yuri Lansing, and that's going to invite Bayern Vortex to the inside of Vale. Nice little job there. However, the outside momentum works better for Jordi. Into the pit lane comes his teammate, Thijs Mosbergen. So he's going to be getting off those softs, presumably onto hards to the end, you would imagine. So Jordi Lansing able to stay in front of the Aston Martin. And now a 3-car train. Championship leader Lewis Smith looking to search for a move on the British Racing Green Aston Martin. Into the loop, he is going to launch that move at the apex. Over the curb, though, bogs down a little bit, gets given a bit of space, struggles on traction, and now Bahen tries to go the long way around. However, DRS an overtake enabled for the championship leader as he pulls himself alongside into Brooklands. It's going to be the advantageous line going through as long as he's committed, brave, bold, and brilliant from, of course, Lewis Smith. Into third, nice move. Thijs Mosbergen onto medium tyres. So, is he going for a 2-stop? See, I'm not sure how effective that's going to be. Purely because he wasn't that quick on the softs. He wasn't quick enough on the softs to gap. And I worry that being on the mediums, lap 10 of 26. Just keeping my eye on all these other battles as well. Right now, the closest one is this battle between Kryptonwild and Rastaklar. You will have to forgive me because... actually, no. Rastaklar is Adam Watson. I do apologise. I've got his name, just not his teammate. So here's Watson, of course. out there in 6th, representing Scotland, of course, in a McLaren, so similar to Lucas Blakely or Wilson Hughes, both of the Scottish drivers within the McLaren Shadow program in F1 eSports. Of course, Lucas Blakely, the reigning F1 eSports champion. William Wilson Hughes. I'll get names right one day. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Wilson Hughes, of course, known him for quite a while, actually, in the F1 sim racing scene. He's been around for years, back in sort of SSR days, if anyone remembers that league, and worked his way through. Now a part, of course, of the McLaren Shadow program in F1 eSports, which of course is now a thing. Once again, George Morgan on the commentary. The amazing Welshman himself. The waistcoat connoisseur, I suppose you could dub him. Commentating, of course, over for ESL and F1 sim racing, I think they call it. Even though it's a tough term to call it, but you know, whatever tickles their fancy. Over in Saudi, of course, for the next rounds over the course of the next couple of days. I think Saudi, Spa and Silverstone over the next few days. Back under a second is Speedy Dude, as actually Watson finds his way past his teammate. Nicely done up into the top 5. Of course, for now, provisionally, we've got Barn Vortex there in P4 as well. He's about half a second off Lewis Smith and running quite a nice, strong race. Of course, Chenkovan at the moment at the front of the field. Be interesting to see when these hard runners come into the pit lane, probably within a couple of laps. Have to say, really impressed with Jordi Lansing's pace because in qualifying, we didn't quite get to see his full potential because of that crash on the final outlap, which, don't get me wrong, is his fault. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. You can't live like that, but his pace definitely impressing, and that gap is closing, so we could well see a fight for the lead. All depends on the strategy and how that brings, of course, the likes of Lewis Smith and, of course, Bahrain back into the mix of things. Thijs Mosbergen is not at all making any inroads on the front lot. In fact, it's probably fairly stagnant in terms of his pace relative to the front 6. And that is a shame. Running within 3/10 of his best, and of course, as the car burns fuel as the race progresses, because there's no refueling in Formula 1 since the late 2010s, I believe. Is it 2011 it was banned? Something like that. So, of course, they start the race with the full race's worth of fuel, which I think for a 50% is around about 54 kilos or so, plus or minus a bit. And of course, when it comes to the weight of the car, the mass, of course, that fuel tank is there. It has mass, it holds weight. And for those familiar with Sir Isaac Newton inertia, of course, an object at rest will stay at rest unless it's acted on by another force. And basically what he means by that is something won't change direction unless you push it enough to make it. Push or pull it enough to make it do that thing. Barn Vortex is into the pit lane, by the way, so we'll see what he can do off the hard compound tyres. But also, the more mass, for F equals MA, force equals mass times acceleration. Basically, the more massive something has, the more force you need it to accelerate at a certain amount. So, of course, acceleration is not just speeding up and slowing down. It is also that change in direction. It is a vector, so it has got both direction and magnitude. And, of course, when it comes to inertia and things, basically, the more massive something has, the more force it needs to change what it's currently doing. So, basically what I'm getting at, the heavier car is, the less responsive it's going to be, because the more load it's taking from all the other components of the car to get it to do that. It takes more strain on the tyres, it takes more strain on the aero, and it takes a lot more for it to change what it's currently doing. So that's why they run light cars in quali, is because the lighter the car is, the more responsive it is. to your changes, of course, and naturally, again, acceleration, speeding up, slowing down. The less massive something is, the more easy it is to, of course, change what it's currently doing. Accelerate, slow down. Jordi, of course, absolutely launches himself to the inside of Stowe corner. Nicely done for the change for the lead. That was on net pace, and he has absolutely catapulted himself through on Chenkovan. Beautifully done from the Red Bull driver as we cross the halfway point in this race. And he finds his way through. Let's see what Chenkovan can do, maybe for a debut win, or is Jordi Lansing going to be going for the race win here in Silverstone? Of course, we've also got Adam Watson into the pit lane from what was P5 at the time. Still out on track though are these guys. I mean, we saw Bayern Vortex come into the pit lane. Out there on circuit, as I say, still Jordi, Chenki. We've got the championship leader, of course, of Lewis Smith. Krypton World is yet to come into the pit lane, and a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. A very easy thing to do here at Silverstone, it must be said, with of course a lot of runoff area, a lot of fast corners, and very easy for you to run wide. A 5-second time penalty, by the way, for Jordi Lansing for speeding in the pit lane. Quite a slow one and a straight line entry here at Silverstone. So easy to do, but could well be quite detrimental to his race overall. Into the pit lane, he won't serve it here, which tells me it will be sort of a post-race penalty. He needs to hope there's not a safety car. He needs to hope he's quick enough to pull a 5-second gap. And all Chenkovan needs to do is stay right close to the rear end of that Red Bull. All three of them on to the medium tyres. What is the stance the Bayern Vortex is going to have in all of this? I don't think he's going to make any dent at all. Thijs Mosbergen, however, pulls off a 6-lap undercut to get through all of them. And take the lead of the race. However, he still has to come in again. There's no doubt about that. He has to come back into the pit lane. If he doesn't, and he nurses those mediums to the end, he's not going to be lasting very long in the lead. But interesting to know. After pit stops, by the way, Jordi Lansing, probably because he sped in pit lane, has got a 1.6-second gap over Chenkovan, who himself is 4 seconds clear of Bayern Vortex. Speedy dude as well, of course, Lewis Smith is there, about 2 seconds back on net pace. So as the race progresses, they are going to span out, and you know, they are going to do different paces, different consistencies. Once they do exit the pit lane, you'll see it anywhere. Anyone that follows anything in sim racing, even F1 and stuff, endurance style races, will see that the first stint, action packed, everyone's close, everyone's sort of staying with each other in DRS. Then after the pit stops, after the longevity of the race has kicked in, things start to spread out. You start to see people's true pace. They break away from the pack, they lose that DRS, and then very quickly their true pace is coming to the light because they're no longer being carried by an extra 4 or 5 tenths a lap by DRS, by slipstream, by people in front battling. So field spread is natural. However, 3 drivers, all within about 1.5 seconds of each other. A caution through the middle sector. This is, for Krypton World, not going to be a safety car, so not to worry for that. Just some yellow flags, and back to green now. He's back to full racing speed, so no concern for that one. The 2 Red Bulls, 1 and 2, Thijs Mosbergen, what's he going to do in response to his teammate being right down his neck? Of course, Jordi Lansing is going to go for the move to the left. No love lost between these 2 Red Bulls all race long, and Lansing is through. Now, Thijs Mosbergen can do him an absolute worldie of a favour and park the bus. Chenkovan already launching an attack, though, of course, on fresh and medium tyres, and Thijs Mosbergen is going to be saying absolutely not, mate. He's going to be defending the wheels off that car to allow his teammate as big of a breathing margin as possible. He needs to park that car. Park the bus. Stop at every apex. Of course, be safe, but do as much as you can get away with in assistance of your teammate, because at the end of the day, the Constructors' Championship is still there, and there is contact on the exit of Chapel. Chenkovan goes off the road momentarily, brings it back on, but loses a heap of time. And now he is about 2.5 seconds off the race lead. Apologies, I just had to sneeze. You didn't need to know that. I just wanted to let you know. It's been an off day for me. All right, 10 minutes before live, my sister had locked my car keys in my car, and I am scrambling to figure out what to do, which is great because I need to drive to Kent on Friday to go and commentate and, you know, earn a living as such. So there's my sob story, but this has put me in a better mood. This broadcast has definitely put me in a better mood when it comes to the racing action that we're seeing and first impressions for you guys. I cannot wait for every Tuesday evening from here on in if this is the standing of racing that we are going to get. We've got Lewis Smith on the back of Barn Vortex, of course, and oh my goodness me, how has he managed that? Wow! How has he held on to that car? And how did he even manage that in the first place? He tried to swerve to go to the outside. In doing so, just completely lost the car. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the championship leader. Okay, moving on. Chenkovan is on the back of Thijs Moosbergen. As we nearly lost the championship leader from this race. And that could well be huge, of course, for those surrounding him. Once again, change for P2, Thijs Moosbergen under pressure from Chenkovan into Stowe corner. The Ferrari absolutely launches that car to the outside. Beautifully done, still within track limits. 2.5 seconds up to Yuri Lansing, and all he has to do is stay within 5 seconds, whilst also not getting himself a penalty himself to win this race. Chenkovan, quickest by about 1/10 of a second. 29.355, the time to go and catch. Krypton World, another 3-second time penalty for his efforts. .2 is the gap. That is going to continuously, continue to go down, I suppose. Continuously continue. That's a phrase now. Through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel for Yuri Lansing, and his race is unravelling a little bit. All that hard work coming undone purely because he carried a few 2 extra Ks into the pit lane. Well, we got 8 laps to go at the line. Into the pit lane again, of course, Thijs Moosbergen off those mediums, trying to probably get himself onto softs, I'd imagine, as he wants to, well, just drive this race as quickly as possible. I think that was the mentality. I don't think it's going to work out for him unless there is a late safety car. He's gone on to hards. What? Unless he didn't have a fresh set from qualifying. So the game has automatically put him on hard compound tyres. What? Ladies and gentlemen, Thijs Moosbergen probably has had the strategical blunder of the century. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, unless he's had like a challenge to go onto every tyre compound in the range. But what? That has to be a mistake. He can't have meant to do that. Regardless, I don't know. Of course, the top two, absolutely nothing left when it comes to battery deployment. 8 and 5% respectively. On to lap 20 of 26, so 7 laps to go at the line. Of course, it's the lap well, the lap count minus the current lap +1, because you actually do complete the final lap. It doesn't end on the final lap, it ends after the final lap. You have to complete it. But yeah, at the moment everything seems fairly set in stone. Of course, there's going to be Jordi Lansing that wins on the road, with Chenkovan coming in just slightly in behind on road, but of course 2.8 seconds clear after penalties have been applied. If anyone is watching along at home, by the way, don't hesitate to come say hello. I know there has been a couple of you come in to sort of say hi. So let me know. Thoughts, feelings, queries, questions, whether you're friends, family of the drivers or whatever. Let me know how you're getting on. Let me know how your day's been. Let me know what you're most excited about for the championship coming up. Of course, my name is Zach Sweeney, live here on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. Tyes Mosberg gets himself a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So that's not good. Suboptimal, as we'd say in the professional sim racing community. But yeah, hopefully you are enjoying. I'm doing my best. Again, F1 isn't necessarily a platform that is overly broadcasted at the community level. Of course, you've got the big tiers and whatever, PSG, LWR, whoever, up in front. But very rarely do you see sort of from maybe a professional. I'm going to put that in quotation marks, because do I see myself as a professional? Vaguely, it's a grey area. Depends what you define professional as, I suppose. But when it comes to professional broadcast, not really something you see. It's only recently that I did the Tuatara Championship on F1 that I broadcasted and commentated for as well. And that was me bedding back into the F1 game. I've got a little bit of knowledge about it now. About what the metas are, how the car handles, how it drives, how the strategy goes. But I'm not perfect. So again, if any of the drivers want to let me know, give me the deets, the juicy gossip, I suppose, to sort of help me, again, learn, develop, because I want to be able to give you guys the best experience possible at home. I want to be able to give you guys the most fake knowledge that I can, i.e. reciting my Year 11 physics class to you all when it comes to inertia and things. Which I'm proud of myself for knowing, because, you know, go me, I managed to get an A-star in physics, so yeah, top stuff. Or well, it was a 9 for new money for those in the UK. Of course, an A-star as it would previously be known in triple science. So, you know, go me. I kind of know what I'm talking about a little bit, and I'm on a commentator, so it just goes to show. Stay in school. Well, hang on. No, don't stay in school, because I've got decent grade. Well, it's fine. Just ignore me. Ignore me. I'm having a rant by myself. I'm having my internal monologue. Just say out loud. Maybe you shouldn't stay in school, because I did. Well, no, I didn't actually. Not for the entirety of it, just for the last little bit. So I don't know. Just do what makes you happy. Be a commentator if you want. Just don't take any of my jobs. That would be ideal. Go and steal some of James Parfitt's jobs. I'm sure he won't mind a couple of days off. Of course, the boss man, that is Mr. JP. Understandably so. That's why it's called JPB, funnily enough. James Parfitt Broadcasting. And welcome to the family. Of course, Almost Pro Championship. Half a second between Tyes Mosberg and, of course, Adam Watson just ahead. And now, through the loop, flashing red light, of course, that rain light, that indicates that he's under 10% ERS. He picks himself up a 3-second time penalty as well. This is going to invite Tyes Mosberg into the left-hand side, the fight for the top 5. The Red Bull driver, of course, on fresher tyres, albeit on the hards, weirdly enough, and through up into 5th place. Nicely done. Now Adam Watson, I should say. Aston Martin, isn't it? McLaren. What's going on with me today? I've got my real live commentary debut coming up in a few days' time with some mini bike racing, which is something I've never done before. And I'm commentating like this. Can't even remember names. Can't even get them right. It's just great. It's fantastic. But it's fine. You guys are helping me warm up my vocabulary. Maybe I should have a thesaurus next to me. Every time I go to say a word, I repeat a lot, like fantastic or absolutely or whatever. I should just open it up and have a quick little gander through. Maybe. I don't know. Lap 23 of 26, by the way. And this is our race leader, Jordi Lansing. 1.6 seconds off race victory, though, in the span of 3.5 laps. How likely is it that he wins this race? I mean, for Chenkovan, all he's got to do is stay within 5 seconds and not pick up a penalty. Is that doable? I mean, we can take a quick look. Of course, if we just head over here, we go to a few lap times. He's got 1 warning on lap 14, and that's it. So he's got 2 more warnings to work with, which effectively means he can use one of them. Because the thing is with warnings and track limits and things, like in iRacing, like in Race Room, like in ACC, is that you see them as currency. So you see a track limits violation, and if you get 3 of them before you get a penalty, that means you've got 2 of them that you can get away with. So Chenkovan might think, okay, I've used one. Maybe if I'm trying to catch, I'll use another one, and then I'll rein it in a little bit. Because again, you can afford it. You use them cleverly. If you can get away with it, it's sort of legal with a price as such. You trade one of your, I suppose, get out of jail free cards to gain a bit of lap time and get off the car ahead. Is it totally legal? No, of course not. You have to stay within the confines of the track. But if the game gives you that leniency and gives you those warnings, you should make that mistake of going wide. Use them. I know in iRacing, when they've sort of got 14, 15 incident limits, drivers will purposefully use a lot more of the track that they can get away with, rack up those sort of 1x incident points, and gain time on the car ahead. Because they can afford to with their incident limits. They can afford to be a bit more aggressive. Those that are close to disqualification won't be as aggressive. They won't push the limits. They won't risk contact with another car. They won't risk going wide at corners because they can't afford to. Those that are still on 0x, they can be punchy. They can force the move. They can force their hand and maybe bait people into backing out as such. And that can be the case when it comes to track limits violations as well. But he has got to be careful because it's so easy to unintentionally get a limit. It's all good talking about intentional ones and using them. But one small mistake and boom, 3-second penalty, and then he is the one on the back foot. He needs to go and catch Jordi Lansing. Right now, Jordi is forced to push and forced to get out of that 5-second range. He is the one on the back foot. Chenky has control. The moment he gets a penalty, he hands that control back to Jordi Lansing and gives the Red Bull driver peace of mind. And then the pressure's on the Ferrari. And that is a role reversal that this Ferrari driver is not going to want whatsoever. Of course, heading into Brooklands with the penultimate lap. So a lap and a half left to go. And what a race it has been up until this point. I mean, the drama that we saw in the first sort of 14 laps or so was insane. It has settled down a little bit, but it's fine. We've had a good chat. And by have a good chat, I've spoken to myself and sparked conversation. But that's the joys of solo commentary, I suppose. Just trying to keep an eye on everything, make sure nothing's glitching out as well. The frame rate looks good on the broadcast. I will need to move this APC somewhere. Maybe I can get away with maybe turning the track map off, or I don't know. I don't want to block the view. I mean, I can kind of get away with putting it here because it's under the thing, but I don't want to sort of have it in the way of the broadcast. I don't want to have it in the way of the cars or the action or anything like that. So what if I just whack it down a little bit? You can still see the APC, and, you know, just donk like that. Is that lined up? I don't know. Maybe. That's the beautiful thing. I can, as a broadcaster, I can move things willy-nilly around the space and do what I like with it. Regardless, we're on to the final lap of the race. Jordi Lansing has got 1 lap to gain 0.8 of a second. This race is still on for the lead, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a guarantee that either of these drivers win. Jordi Lansing still needs to gain time. He needs to push. And push he is. That gap through the first sector alone already up 0.2 of a second. He's got half the lap left to go. Bit of lap traffic to contend with, though, in the former Krypton world. Let's see who's going to be the one to take victory of this race. Round 6 of the Almost Pro Championship here at Silverstone. It's been a phenomenal race. And the 2-time race winner of last season is looking to take his way back to race winning glory. A huge snap of oversteer on the exit of Chapel Curve, and that is going to allow Chenky a lot of time gained. 3.6 seconds now is the gap, and that effectively hands the crown to the debutant of course, Chenkovan in P2. All he's got to do is keep it nice and easy. All he's got to do is sail it to the line. Fast lap of the race for Krypton World, but that's not going to matter. It's this man right here, Jordi Lansing, that takes the race victory on the road. But the debutant from pole position, Andrei Chenkovan, victorious here in Silverstone by just over a second after penalties applied. Championship leader consolidates a good result with a podium place as well, ahead of Bayern Vortex, who is going to crawl his way to a 4th place finish. What a race, ladies and gentlemen. That was enthralling from start to finish. Remarkable stuff. And I have to say, I enjoyed every second of it. It was a fantastic get to know you all. Of course, I'll save every setting that I've got on this broadcast. Not going to touch anything between now and next Tuesday. Nope, not a problem. It works. We're going to leave it. Just waiting for the last couple of cars to, of course, cross the finish line. We'll run you through the final grid order, final finishing order, and maybe have a couple of chats with some of the drivers if they so wish. It's completely optional. It would be nice to get a little bit of insight, though, regarding the race. Make sure you, of course, like, subscribe, turn the bell on for notifications, all things that jazz. Make sure you're staying up to date with the JPB. For those that are only focused on the F1 scene and want to sort of branch out to the wider worlds of sim racing, we've got everything. Whether that's single-seaters, so you want to maybe transition from single-seaters in F1 to maybe more realistic single-seaters, F4, F3, anything like that. It's on here. Touring cars, GT3, NASCAR, anything. It is on here. Have a look and sort of look around. Find a championship you like. Maybe you'll find a new home when it comes to JPB. Maybe you'll see yourself compete in one of those championships at a later date. Whatever it might be, just make sure you're settling in quite nicely with us, because it's a privilege to have you join the family here with APC. The Croatian from pole position lights the flag, does not tell the whole story. He had a road to go through, a poor start, but in the end, the top step of the podium. Behind that comes Jordi Lansing, of course, in the Red Bull. P2, P1 on the road. If it wasn't for that speeding violation in the pit lane, what could have been? Championship leader Lewis Smith consolidates another podium there in 3rd, ahead of the man from Barbados with Bayern Vortex in 4th. Of course, the other Flying Dutchman of Thijs Moosbergen rounds off the top 5, with Adam Watson and Krypton World rounding off the 7-car field that we had today. The McLaren, though, taking a late charge to the fastest lap of the race. Now what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is just bring up this lovely looking Discord page that I've got. I'm going to have a little look, see if anyone wants to come and have a chat with me. Maybe they don't, who knows. We'll all find out. So just having a quick little type-in match with my keyboard, just seeing if anyone does want to come in. If they do, then happy days. We'll have a chat with them. If not, then that's fine. Of course, we can't wait forever. But let's just summarise that race, because it was amazing. Of course, off the start, Chenkovan was trying to get a good launch, didn't quite. It was then the Aston Martin of Bayern Vortex who qualified on that front row, that catapulted himself past him quite nicely, and then took the lead early on. It was a fight from then on in. Of course, Chenkovan took an early lead. Jordi was then able to close that gap back up and fight his way back through for the lead, and then didn't look back till the end of the race. Unfortunately let down by a 5-second time penalty to see him drop back behind the debutant Ferrari, who then was able to take victory after penalties applied. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't look like anyone is coming into the rating room, so I will say goodbye and see if anyone in the meantime sort of comes in and wants to have a go. But we, as I say, can't go on forever. Unfortunately, that is going to wrap up our action here today of the Almost Pro Championship. Round number 6 of Season 6 took here, of course, to the home of British Motorsport. We took to the Silverstone Grand Prix layout. My name has been Zach Sweeney. You've been watching along live on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. Of course, we thank you for watching. We thank you for being a part of this amazing journey, and we will hope to see you continue all the way through. In terms of next week, of course, on the 16th of April, we'll be heading to Spa, the circuit of Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium. Beyond that, on the 30th of April, we'll head to the Netherlands in Zandvoort. Of course, that's going to be the one that the Flying Dutchmen are going to want to go and win. Singapore just after that for round number 9, followed by Kota, Mexico, Brazil, Qatar, and then the UAE, Abu Dhabi on the 11th of June to round off. What an amazing Season 6 this is going to be. Hopefully a standout finale as well. I've been trying to hang off saying goodbye for as long as I can, but I can only do it for so long. Ladies and gentlemen, join me back in the commentary booth in a week's time, 8:30 BST. Translate that to wherever you are around the world, right here on the JPB YouTube channel and also on the APC Twitch channel as well. So make sure you're followed and subscribed to both. It's not going to be one that you want to miss. We'll be back for Spa. Take care for now. It's goodbye.